Everybody, welcome back to Keeping It Real with Tiff and Carl. I'm Carl Rabun,
And I'm Tiff Salcido.
and it is good to be back with you. Lots of things have happened since we last spoke. Tiffany is in a foreign land, well, foreign to Californians, but for other folks, right? And you know,
Pacific Northwest.
so yeah, for some folks, it's home, right? So
Yeah,
parts
yeah.
unknown.
It's cold here. It's cold. It's like there was no transition from like summer to fall to winter. It went from like I was in shorts last week, and right now I'm in jeans and a vest and fluffy shoe. Like it's just ridiculousness. I need a buffer. I need like a transition period, but I'm over here fighting for my life, trying to keep my hands in my pocket. My nails are like color change nails and they're cold right now, so they're a different color. I mean, it's just there's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, my
About
wife
to
likes
start a
doing this.
fire in my yeah, to start a fire over here in this little room.
Wow. Well, I mean, do you have like a space heater? I mean, that's a good way to start a fire is a space heater. But anyways, yeah, let's not go there. But
Yeah, I usually do. I'm at my mom's house right now, and so she's moving and she's got everything packed up, and she wants me to be comfortable. I just am like I'm fine, I'm fine. Um, and I don't want to inconvenience her. She's got enough going on right now, so I'll be all right. I'll be okay.
cool. I found myself doing something odd yesterday on my way home from the Bay Area where I was teaching Monday and Tuesday. I actually turned my thermostat in my car up higher than the temperature
Wow.
outside, which is a first in a few months for me, I have to say. Right. So I don't know if my car reacted very well. I think it kind of did. You remember Speed Buggy? But it kind of made that noise like, oh, what the WTF, Carl? Right.
What are we
My car
doing?
calls my car calls me Carl. It doesn't say dad or anything. It just calls me Carl.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I feel that. It's funny because I almost always it doesn't matter, except for when it's really hot outside, but I'm gonna say like 70% of the year I have the seat the heater. The I don't know what
Mhm.
people call them. I call them the bun warmers. I got the bun
Yeah.
warmers on almost all the time because I kind of run cold. And the rental car I had did not have seat warmers. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. This is pathetic. How do people live like this? I
Right.
don't understand it. So my buns are not warmed, but again, it'll be fine. I did turn my space heater in my other office, my home office, on the other day. I needed it because when it's chilly outside, I usually have the space heater on. And it had been so long, it was like that first of the season burnt ass dust smell coming from the poor heater. But
Yeah.
it was
All
worth
the
it because I was cold.
all the dust and the mites that have accumulated there. Yeah.
Well, all of it got burnt off because I put that thing on like burn in hell hot. It was so warm. That's how I like it. I don't
Mhm.
know. I enjoy a space heater for sure.
Yeah, and I
Especially because
enjoy
I
a
live
fan.
see,
Right.
I was gonna say I live with a polar bear who wants it to be sub-zero cold all the time. So we don't turn on our house heater like hardly ever. Like hardly ever.
Yeah.
Maybe like 3 times out of the year I'll turn it on just to as I tell him, knock the chill out of the air. So once I can get like the frigidness out, I'll turn it off. But for the most part, we don't use the house heater. But if I'm sitting down in my office, I have my little space heater just on turbo,
Yeah.
ready to roast.
Well, I'm a lot like your husband. I like it. I don't know if I
Hmm.
like it cold anymore. The older I'm getting, the more my arthritis hurts and stuff. So I don't know if I like it chilly, but I do not like it hot. I will sweat in place more often than not, and it annoys the
Mm.
hell out of me. So, but I mean, I don't know if you guys have this. It sounds like you have it. Like, do you have like climate control in your car? So, he can have it on 65 and you can have it on, surface of the sun, right? And it's blowing in your face, right?
No, because he's OCD about having them synced. It has to be the same, or he's like, I don't know, stresses out about it. Like if the sync button is not synced, But this is where the seat warmer comes in. So if I turn the seat warmer on, I'm toasty because my whole seat is warm. And I also travel with a throw blanket most of the time.
Yeah,
And so I almost always have a blanket on. And if I don't have a blanket, I always carry an extra like sweatshirt. And so I'll have like a hoodie over my knees. But I'm
that's
like a little old lady when it comes to like, my bones are cold. They're
that's my
well
wife.
insulated. Yeah, they are
That's my
well
wife.
insulated bones. But I'm
Yeah.
always it, there's a slight chill in the air. I'm ridiculous. I really am. It's all right. I'll be fine.
But even when it's cold, I like to have like air going, right?
Yeah.
Growing up in San
Yeah.
Francisco, I'd still have my window open, even if it was cold, even the heater on, which my mom, you're blowing the hot air. And I'm like, I want to tell you, I mean, it's just, I need to have that circulation in that air. I can't stand, when it's too musty and, just, that air that just
Yeah.
sitting air just annoys the hell out of me. So in the winter, I'll have my fan on. I just won't turn on very loud, but it'll at least I'll have like some type of just going across my face, right? So
Yeah, I don't really actually like the warm hot heater air. I like the space heater because it just warms up my feet, which apparently my legs, which is where I'm cold. But
yeah,
um like my mom keeps her heater on like hot. And so I'm a big fan, especially when it's like night sleepy time, to have like a window open where you're getting like that crisp air from outside, but you're all cozy in your blankies. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
heaven. So if I
yeah,
can't be cozy in my blankies, I don't want it. I'm not about that life. But there's like a threshold where it's like a little bit too chilly. But like
hmm
my ceiling fan in my bedroom, it's never off. Like my ceiling fan never turns off all year round. The only time
yeah,
that we turn it off, well, the only time it goes off is during a power outage and it'll turn off because you have to manually turn it back on. And that's
yeah,
usually when we clean it, is if there's a power outage, because we're like, oh wow, that thing's nasty. We need to clean
yeah.
that. And then and that's it. That's pretty much the only time that we ever have the ceiling fan off is if it turns itself off. Or I will say this is disgusting and I'm kind of embarrassed to tell this story, but um this happened probably like 6 months ago. The dust like flung off there was like
And
a big
big,
chunk,
yeah,
yeah, of dust on the ground. And I said, what the hell is that? Because it was like this big, like glob of, I don't know,
looks like a
everything that's
dead animal.
collected in
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah,
So I was like, what the hell is that? And then I told my husband, I'm kind of embarrassed. I think we need to clean that ceiling fan. It's fight for its life right now. And we turned it off and it was just disgusting. But when it's moving, you don't notice that. And I don't have like I don't know, ceiling fan cleaning schedule. So yeah,
we
I'm a
bought a
slob. That's
ceiling
it.
fan cleaning tool with a
Yeah.
hole in it, right?
Yeah.
But just it makes everything. You have to like put a tarp over everything, like you're bombing the house anyway. So yeah,
Yeah. I know exactly. We have one of those too, but again, I don't know to use it until it's too late.
yeah. Well,
Then
my
I'm
ceiling fan
disgusted
is
with
on.
myself.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, and yeah, the ceiling fan stays on, when I'm in the living room, when I'm
Mhm.
not, the minute that I'm not, it turns off
Yeah, magically,
somehow.
magically, motion
Uh,
censored. We're gonna go with that.
so enough about our habits with weather. But no, I told my wife we're going to a family wedding in Palm Desert on in December, and we didn't know exactly when it was going to be, but then it was at 2:30 in the afternoon, and so now she's stuck between wearing a dress and wearing pants, or wearing a pantsuit, or like a jumper. Is that what it's called? A jumper, romper? I can't.
Yeah, but both. You could use both.
Yeah,
Interchangeable.
as long as it has pockets, that's all that matters, right? So but
That's absolutely
I know
correct.
that edge control and pockets, those are things that I know women need to have more than anything. And once I mention those two things, women are like, okay, well, at least he's paying attention. So,
Right.
but yeah, so she's kind of stuck between, because in Palm Desert it'll get in December, it'll get in the 70s and 80s, and then it'll go down to the 40s, right? Very quickly. So I'm just trying to,
Layers.
yeah,
Tell her whatever she can layer, that's what she should wear, whatever she can layer, because it is exactly like that. That's
yeah,
actually one of the things I like about living in the desert is that You get the warm days and then you get like the crispy nights. I think
Hmm.
that's really something spectacular about living in a desert. So I'm a huge fan. 10 out of
Yeah.
10.
When I did it, I enjoyed that too. So very
Yeah.
cool.
But
So,
oh, go ahead, Carl. Carl, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was just saying, I just got back from Crescent City,
Mhm.
and I was thinking about when the last time I was there, and it was January of 2020, and I just remember it very specifically because COVID wasn't like it was just starting to be like a thing. And my mom and my grandma came from Eugene, Oregon to spend the week with me because I was there working for a week in Crescent City, and they came to stay with me for that week so we could hang out in the evenings and stuff. And we were watching the news, and they were flying um, all of the Americans that were in China. They were flying them into Moreno Valley, which is where I live at, into the March Air Force Base, and they were quarantining them there for a couple of weeks to make sure they weren't infected. And I was like, that's just a few miles from my house. That's kind of crazy. And so then I was wondering, like at that time, like I wonder how long until like we don't get to travel anymore, whatever the case may be. And then it was like shortly after that. But when we drove, like the drive, I always fly into Eugene and then drive into Crescent City because there's not a whole lot of options to get there. Um, the drive is so freaking gorgeous. I have forgotten how pretty that drive is and how much I enjoy going to Crescent City. It was so dreamy. 'Cause it was like the other day, it was like rainy, but not like super wet, stormy, just like drizzling. And then you're driving through the redwoods, and it was just perfection. I loved
It's
it
kind
so
of
much.
windy, but it's not like terribly windy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful, beautiful drive. And so I also got to go, I found like one of my favorite things when I go places is I like to kind of find like where the local dive bars and stuff are at, or like where the local people, the wa local watering hole, whatever that is. And I found it at Porta Pints yesterday, Porta Pints. And I'm not even drinking right now. I'm on like this I don't know. I think I'm getting old. My body's like, don't drink. It makes you feel bad. And I'm like, get over yourself. Like, this is not I don't want this ailment. Give me something else. Like have me walk with a limp or something, but let me enjoy my alcohol. But anyways, I just went and wanted to just hang out and kind of socialize with people. And it was just like such a fun experience. Everybody was so nice and talkative and chatty. And there were people from all over. They're building like a big bridge or working on this big bridge over there. So you have all the workers that are from like the unions and stuff that are there. And we met a really cool guy from Texas. And it was just a dope experience. I really enjoyed it. And the owner was there and he was super friendly and nice. And uh, they had good food there. I mean, it's all I like Irish pub food. So like I got a nice soft pretzel, which I haven't had a soft pretzel in I don't know how long. It reminded me of my dad. That was his jam. So it was kind of like nostalgic for me. And I don't know. I had a good time. That's all. It
Very
was a good
cool.
time.
Very cool. Yeah, I enjoy Crescent City. I get up there. Well, I don't know, probably I got up there last year. I spent 3 days up
Mhm.
there last year at this time, actually. I think October 23rd of last year, I was coming back from Crescent City. I was teaching a 2-day class up there for Del Norte County. And but yeah, it's that drive to Crescent City, I guess from Crescent City to the five. I did that one time. I was driving up to Seattle for a friend's wedding, and we started in the city, and then we heard that I-5 was snowed in. So we decided to go up 101. It shouldn't take that long. And I'd never really, yeah. So, 18 hours later, right? So, but driving up through Crescent City and then that little windy road that lets you out in Grants Pass and stuff. And that was super cool. And, that was, yeah, I definitely, when you said that, it brings back, fond memories, and we missed the snow. And we got there, we left at 10 in the morning from San Francisco, got to my sister-in-law's house Bremerton, Washington at like
My sister used to live there.
3 o'clock in the morning. Was she in the Navy or yeah?
No, she just
No.
no. She
Yeah,
was just running away from me because she was in. Anyway, sorry.
that's okay. No,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and then I guess we learned there was a rivalry between Bremerton and Port Orchard, and that,
Oh,
you know, people from Bremerton called people from Port Orchard Orcas, and people from Port Orchard called Bremerton Bummertown. So,
gotcha.
how those little things happen, right? And they all
Right.
hate Seattle, which is across the water. So, but yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. Okay. Travel trails, travel trails are always fun.
They
So,
really are. I
yeah,
I tell you, it's I think one of the perks of having a travel, it's like a perk and a uh hassle all at the same time. Like I don't know how else to say it because again I went there for 1 day of training and I it takes 3 days. It takes 3 days because it takes a full day to get there, it takes a full day to come back. So it's not a it's not it can weigh on you after a while. That's what I'm saying. You
yeah,
got to be conditioned for it for sure.
yeah. If you're doing it regularly, that can be a hassle. I'm going up there twice, once next month and then once in February. And if I said it, it has to be on a Monday because, or if it's a Tuesday, that means I'm not working on a Monday, right? So you have to,
Right.
it's a 7 hour trip up there, and and like I said, it's a lot of it's fun, it's an experience, but when it's parceled out in those times, that's cool.
Yeah.
There's a real cool Thai place in Crescent City I went to last time because the Chinese food place was closed down, and so I was tired of going to Denny's, and I found a Thai place that was legit like Thai.
I think I've eaten there. I think I've eaten there
Yeah,
before.
yeah,
I will
and
also say, yeah, if you haven't had the Good Harvest Cafe
uh-huh.
on 101, that is one of my
Yeah,
favorite spots too. We didn't I
yeah,
didn't go this time. I didn't go this time because so I worked for one of the tribes and they potluck. They fed us. And so
yeah,
I usually when I get off of work, I'm hungry, and I wasn't hungry until like 9 o'clock last night. I
yeah,
was
yeah.
so full, they fed me so much. I'm like, oh, I'm good, thank you. They're like, no, you have to try this, and I said, oh, okay. And then I would try it, and I'd say, okay, great, I'm good, thank you. They're like, no, but you have to try this, and I said, oh, okay. I'm like, I'm not saying no, I'll try it all. Everything was amazing. It was great.
Totally. Yeah, I
So
went to a Good Harvest last time I was there. My good friend Jennifer Elp, who
I like
is
Jennifer. I like Jennifer.
Jennifer's the bomb. Yes, Jennifer, if you're listening, we love you.
We
And
do.
yeah, and I'm friends with her niece who lives down here in the Sacramento area, and so we call each other cousins through Jennifer. So it's cool.
Yeah, I love that. And it's
Yeah,
funny because every time I see Jennifer, she always asks if I've seen you. And I said, I haven't seen, well, this was where we were seeing each other all the time. And she
yeah,
always says, next time you see Carl, you tell him I said hi. And I said, I will. And I never did. Sorry, Carl. She said hi about 14 times, but
right on.
I always forget. But I love
She's
Jennifer.
probably
She's
get,
awesome.
she's probably getting ready to go to New Zealand. I think every year she goes to New Zealand for like a month to go visit her daughter, and it's in
Love,
our winter, which is their summer. So her Facebook is
love,
prolific, so it's pretty cool. But
love that.
yeah. All right. So hey, Jennifer. And hey, Tiff, I have a question for you. So,
Yes.
we've been doing random questions, and I pulled a random question from this deck that I use in my classes, like communication skills classes, and it's just an icebreaker deck. And there's a bunch of different categories, and I just randomly pulled them from the middle of the deck. And the question it asked is, what is something that you are self-conscious about?
This is like a hard question. And Carl was sweet enough to like give me this question ahead of time. So not to put me on the spot. I'm assuming that was an act of generosity on your part. Because it's a it's a vulnerable question, but
I asked if we should do it, and you gave you
yeah,
you said we
I
should.
said
So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah. And so I appreciate it. So I had some time to think about it. Um, as a very normally confident person, there are very few things that I'm like not always confident about or what I'm not usually self-conscious. I just feel like your flaws are part of your humanity and It's nothing to be ashamed or afraid of. But if I really were to, when I really think about it, I'm giving like a really long politician answer here, but here's the real the real answer. I think the thing that I'm most self-conscious about is probably my parenting skills when my kids were like in their adolescence. I feel like when they were like babies, like toddlers, young little creatures, I was really really good at loving on them and doing stuff. And then their adolescent years was like a hard time for me personally. I mean, I was divorcing their dad, going through like figuring out who I was as a person who wasn't a wife or a parent or whatever. Um, that's about the time that they start getting like their own ideas and their own like opinions, and they don't just do what you tell them. I didn't know how to deal with any of that, and I was doing it by myself for the first time. So, um, and then I kind of got the hang of it a little bit later on. I kind of found myself and stabilized a bit and developed some skill sets. And so for their teenage years, I think I did okay. But I would say like the adolescent years, I think I'm pretty self-conscious about how I parented, and I wish that I knew now or then what I knew know now. It would have been really different for all of us, but that's a long, deep breath. It was a tough time for I think my kids, and it was a tough time for me too. So that's the thing I'm most self-conscious about, I think.
Okay. Thank you
I'm
for that.
really glad. Yeah, I'm just saying I'm really glad that we didn't have like tons of social media and like surveillance cameras. I would never want to watch like the playback of that time period is what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I mean, y'all came out of it with 10 fingers and 10 toes.
Yes, and I have really, really, really great relationships with my kids today. I've been able to like go back and make amends and apologize for again, not always making the best decisions as a parent and, not knowing how to react to certain behaviors and um, just really kind of shower them with like love and know that they are loved unconditionally. And um, again, sometimes it's a tough conversation to have, but my kids are really forgiving and I don't even think they cared as much as I did, to be honest. Think I'm harder on me than they were harder on me, but I'm really, really close to them now. My kids are awesome, all of them.
Very
So
cool.
it worked out. It worked out. It always does. What about you, Carl? Beat that. Beat that as I cry in the corner over here.
Right. Well, I mean, if it's something I'm self-conscious about, it's something I've always been self-conscious about is my weight. And
Oh,
it's
I can
something
relate.
that has always been a, I don't even know if it's a topic of conversation. It's a topic of conversation with my family, right?
Mhm.
Which was definitely something that has carried over, right? And it's something that I come from, families on either side. They're both big people, right? And so if I'm not careful, I mean, I have a friend who has like 5% body fat and like has eaten nothing but candy his entire life. And it pisses me off. He's like 60
Mhm.
something years old now and he's still got a six pack. And it's like he's still sucking down, Twizzlers I'm just like, how do you Skittles? I'm like, if I look at a Skittle, I gain 3 pounds. And so, and it's always been that topic of conversation within my family. And this, as a kid, you catch it and, you're the kid. I mean, I sang and I played baseball, so I was the athletic or talented fat kid, but I was still the fat kid, right? And so it was stuff that had bothered me and carried over. Even when I played baseball in college and semi-pro and stuff like that, I always was weighing myself, thinking about how I've been. So even now, I mean, and I got up to almost like 400 pounds, and I
Mhm.
lost, a ton of it, right? Almost half of it, but still, it's something where just even now, my dad will send us texts every now with just pictures and how he's losing weight and what weight he's down to. And these are like milestones for him. The man's 73 years old. I mean, so these are things that have weighed on, you know, me and my family for a long time. And so it's something that you're always self-conscious of, and you're always, I mean, I wish I didn't, I wish I could just eat and not worry about it. I wish I didn't worry about eating. I wish I didn't think about it or anything else like that. So it's definitely something that, I developed a bit of a complex, and I worry that, I passed that on to my daughter. Right. And so, that's something that I think about a lot. And, I wish I wasn't so self-conscious about it, but I also recognize, along with the physiological part of it, the body part of it, there's also, the diabetes and blood pressure and everything else like that, that I have to monitor, that there's a reason why I can't, just have fun like everyone else and not pay for it. Right. So it's definitely something that I'm consciously on about and thinking about. And, we'll say yes to hang out with people or no to hang out with people based off of those things. And whether they're going to go eat and I just ate, and I don't want to be tempted, because if I go out with somebody and I just ate 2 hours ago, guess what, I'm going to eat again. Right. And so it's just annoying as shit. I wish it wasn't something that was as constantly on my mind as it is, and I've done all the things to it, and and to address it. But I also know it's something I'm going to live with, because it's something that I grew up with. Right. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I relate to that on more levels than you imagine. But I think my mindset shift, mine was more for aesthetic reasons. I'm a female in this world, and so a lot of times, as women, we're judged by our physique and
Sure.
this, that, and the other. However, I think I was blessed with a bigger personality than my body. And
Okay.
at some point, I think at some point I just came to terms that I'm always going to be thickums.
Yeah.
And I focused on like health, as long as I'm healthy
Yeah.
and like I don't have any like underlying conditions, then having a little extra stuffing is going to be okay. And
Yeah.
this is my body. But not to say that I do a free for all. I mean, I try to move my body. I try to like not go overboard on stuff. I try to keep like a fairly healthy diet. Um, but I really do get it. It does. I go through periods where it weighs on me too, and yeah.
And
So
it
I
just
feel you
pops
on that.
up. It just pops
Hmm.
up when you least expect it, right? I mean, like, in terms of my test numbers, I am healthier than I have been in 30, and on the scale, and in my test numbers, I'm healthier than I have been in since I was in my mid 30s, right?
Yeah,
But I also, like, just like yesterday, somebody, maybe we were talking about compliments, and somebody said they liked my shirt, right? And I almost went into this long diatribe in the class about, oh yeah, thanks, I lost 50 pounds last year, so I was able to actually shop at Abercrombie and Fitch. I've never been able to shop there before, so it's interesting that
yeah,
I found the shirt, and it's just like, wow, you know, catch
right.
yourself, pull it back. These people do not need to go that far into you, Carl. But
Yeah,
it's something that is not far in my subconscious, something that isn't there
yeah,
to, have that conversation on a regular basis. So I hear you. The aesthetics piece, sure, sure. I mean, you're a woman in the world. I'm a guy who's trying, who's always been trying to find, the perfect partner. I mean, third time's a charm, and I think I found a good one. But that's it's always been something that's always been
right.
part of it as well. So I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm sure lots of other people can relate too. It's a big issue in the United States, and it impacts how people are seen professionally and even socially. There's so much stigma around weight, and I'm not talking like people who weigh more than the average, but even people who are thinner or more athletic or more built. Like there's so much energy around people's bodies. It's kind of wild, but
yeah.
that's the world we live in. That's the world we live in.
And that ends our new segment, Vulnerability Corner. So thank you all very
Yeah,
much for attending.
sponsored by Kleenex.
Yes. And so both of us are going to turn off our cameras for a bit, do a few breathing exercises, and come back ready to go. If
Yeah,
we had
right?
commercials, this would be a perfect place for commercials, right? So if anybody wants to sponsor us, I know a great, you know, um, dry cleaning place down the road. If you want to sponsor us, come on, come on.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, I have a question.
Sure.
And my question is, if you could wish for and obtain like one special talent, what would that be? And make it a real one, not like I would be invisible, not like a special superpower, but like something you wish you were really good at, but you're not.
Well, if you would have asked me 25 years ago, I would have said, I wish I had 8 more miles an hour on my fastball. Right. But now that I just had an MRI on my shoulder and I have a rotator cuff tear, I
Ooh,
figure the mileage that I had on my fastball was just about enough, if not too much. Right. So,
yeah.
um, a special talent. I wish I was, and I have
Oh, the baby.
I wish I wasn't so loved by my baby, but
Yeah,
she has been quite needy today for some reason. It's the third
that's
time she's
okay.
in my lap. So thank you, baby. Say hi, Coco. Say hi. Say hi, Coco.
Coco,
Say
baby
hi, Coco.
girl. Sorry.
I wish I was more naturally organized.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to. It's a skill that I've developed to be proficient at it, where I'm not getting fired for not being organized, but I'd like to not be anxious about, did I remember this? Did I do this? Or, oh, I need to do this real quick. Or why didn't I do this earlier? I wish I was more type A in that sense, so I could wake up in the morning with a to-do list in my head and was ready to go. I always talk about in my classes how jealous I am of those folks who do that. I recognize that I'm probably better when the plan blows up, right? And which
Mhm.
is another talent in itself. But I do wish I had a little more of that natural understanding of organization and not chasing squirrels so much.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I wish I was more artistic and artistic in like several areas. Like I like painting a lot. I'm not good at it at all. So like if I go to those paint and sip nights, I really enjoy them. Not just the sipping, but I really enjoy like the painting and the instruction.
Mhm.
But my picture never, ever, ever looks anything like the one that they start with. So I have a son who is just amazing. He's an amazing artist. He can pick up a paintbrush and a canvas or a baseball hat or anything. Like he paints on everything. And it's
Yeah.
just it's unique and it's special and it's amazing. So I wish I had like that type of artistry, but it also for me extends like to like music. I wish I could sing and I wish I could dance. I can do neither. Um, I did some reflection on singing a while back, and I remember I used to always be in chorus in like junior high and stuff like that. Well, like mostly through elementary and junior high school. And I remember being in junior high that my music teacher, Mr. Lingenfelter, that was his name,
That
used
is
to move.
such a choir teacher's name. Yes,
He was
Mr.
amazing.
Lingenfeld.
He was a cool dude, Mr. Lingenfelter, but he would move me from like for different songs, he'd move me to like different parts. And I thought, oh my God, I have such great range that he used me. But what I have like thought about since I said, I think he was trying to drown me out because I can't like carry a note. Like I cannot match a note like to save my life. If
Yeah.
they're like doing the do re mi, I'm like, like it's awful. I can't sing to save my life. So I think he was trying to move me to which side that you wouldn't be able to hear me on. Because I had volume, I just don't have pitch or anything.
Yeah.
So so that was that would be my tone. I would be able to sing or
If we're
or
gonna
dance.
if we're gonna do that, then yeah, I wish I could play the piano or the guitar, one of the two. One of the two, because I have like songs in my head I can't get out without somebody else, and I don't like asking anybody else for anything. So, yeah,
There you go. I'd like to play the piano too. I think the piano's one of but I wouldn't do guitar. I would do violin. If I could play the piano and or the violin, but I have no musical talent, which I have another son who is very musical and plays multiple instruments and has been in band for like his whole life and still plays instruments and can pick up notes and I don't understand it. I am completely absent of that entire gene. And I've tried, trust and believe. I've done dance. I have done, some musical training, and it's just I was in a musical. Boom. I performed in a musical, but I still can't dance and I still can't sing.
So
Terrible.
people want to know which musical was it?
I was in college at the community college. I was in the musical How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. And I was part of the ensemble cast, and I was in almost every scene singing and dancing, but usually on the edge right by the curtain so they can push me off. Like
And were you
I can
talk
do
singing? Yeah.
yeah, well, I
Yeah.
can do like choreography, like I can pick it up. It takes me just a long time, like Zumba. If I go to like a Zumba class, first time, if it's like the first time I've done it, I can't follow along. It takes me like I'm too I don't know, like in my head about it, but my body doesn't move like naturally. I have to be like step right, step like I have to like I don't know what the word is for it, but I have to like theorize the whole thing. Like, okay, now this arm is going to go up. No, 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 wait, it's this arm. Okay, this right foot, left arm. I have to like think it all the way through and it doesn't like I don't know if you know like that super iconic scene from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where Vivian was like trying out for the music for the dancer position and they said okay here's the dance and she goes in there like she does this whole thing watching the person dance one time I'm like absolutely not you can
Yeah.
do a step by step with me and it's going to take at least 4 business days before I get like the first 8 count. It's ridiculous. No rhythm, none, but I'll get it eventually. It just takes I need a lot of patience.
That's cool. Well, yeah, no, I do have rhythm. So that was, I actually had somebody compliment me. We had a gig on Friday, and the guy came up to me, and he had played. He was a drummer with one of our guitarists growing up, and he said, I have to tell you, I have to give you a compliment on playing that tambourine because a lot of singers play the tambourine and they fuck up every song playing that tambourine. And I said, "Oh, well, geez, thanks." I said, "I'm kind of hard on drummers because I have rhythm, and so I want to make sure if I'm going to play something, I'm going to do it correctly because I don't want to be that person that screws everything up, right?" So, but it was just an interesting, that he came out, because and I've had some people who just like I had one drummer, he'd be playing and he'd stop, grab my tambourine and stop in the middle of a song, and I'm like, how are we still getting a beat? I mean, I don't understand. That was really the talent of his, but it was also an annoyance. But so it was,
Hmm.
yeah, just having rhythm is good, but you also have to know how to use it in moderation, right? You don't want to overdo it. And Viv overdid it, right? And I think that's when they switched out,
Killed it.
that Aunt Viv with the other Aunt Viv. Is that what it was?
Well,
So
she might have thrown a hip out. I don't know. That dance routine was pretty dope. I watched that as a kid, and I'm like, if only I could be like that. Like that's still like I practiced that move. Like I don't know, whatever it was. But
who's your
by the
favorite
way,
Aunt
never.
Viv?
You know what? I like both Aunt Vivs, but I think the OG Aunt Viv was the best Aunt Viv. The other one I never really bought into it because the first one was just like, you know,
Yeah,
she
yeah.
she was sassy, she was smart, she's beautiful.
Yeah.
Not that the other Aunt Viv wasn't all of those things as well, but um I like the first one. I like the
The
first
other
one. I
Aunt
feel
Viv,
really
like
bad.
the second
Hmm.
choice. She looked like the second choice. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
I hear. Or she felt like it. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, anyways,
Mm.
but yeah, word of advice though, never give me the tambourine. I'll throw the whole show off. They'll pull the fire alarms, is what I'm saying.
Well, then yeah. So that's cool. We can find something else. I have a little shaker that like an orange. So you can do
Yeah.
that. That'll work. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. Just
Perfect.
don't change the beat, right?
Okay. How about this? How about I just be an audience member in the front going, "Woo!" 'Cause that is a special talent. Woo! Woo!
And every now and then,
And that I'm good at.
if you put something in the tip jar, then that's even a better talent. So,
I
yeah.
got you. I got you on that one.
So Speaking of change, I like that one, huh? You know, so
Good segue. Whew.
yeah, so yeah, it's what we're here to talk about a little bit today is change, right? And so, where have you encountered issues with change lately?
Ooh, I don't know. Well, I'm like, let me think of a few. In personal life, it's funny because I don't know that I have experienced issues because I've really gotten good at change. I worked in government, of course, for 20 something years, and change is something that we go through all of the time. Like everything's always changing. So I think that I've become really talented at navigating through change and navigating through uncertainty. But again, I've been going through some life changes, moving houses and figuring out like what the future looks like. And so that's been a bit hectic. And in work, I haven't really experienced a lot of work changes aside from um, having some additional structure added to some of the processes that we've been doing for years and years and getting some clarification. But for me, it wasn't a huge change because most of it was in line with what I was already doing. So wasn't incredibly significant, I would say, for me. But I don't know. For me, change isn't so bad. I actually like change most of the time because um, I get bored. So whenever there's like something new to learn or a new process or a new way of doing it, as long as it makes sense to me, I think that's the caveat. As long as it makes things better and it's not like change for the sake of changing, if there's a purpose behind it, I'm on board. But if you want to just change because you're flexing that you have control or power, I probably won't do it. But if it's a legitimate change and I can see the benefit of it, then I'm going to be on board. I'm going to find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I'm thinking a lot about it. I mean, I can roll with the change with the punches and the change, right? That's something that I've learned to do. I do value certainty, which was interesting because I mean, if we talk about scarf, right,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
certainty, right? That's definitely something that I like to know what to expect professionally. Just, personally, that sense of security is definitely something that's nice, right? But it's something, that really, when a change comes about, I want to know why and how is it going to benefit, right? Sometimes a change is just to stop the bleeding, all right? Sometimes a change is not going to benefit us right away. I mean, if talking about the J curve, right? If everybody knows what the J curve is, it's that, that little dip that you experience when you are in a change process, right? And, when you form a team, then you start storming, right? We've already talked about that, but in the storming process, you have a dip in production because you're getting to know each other and you know a little bit enough where you can start having disagreements on things, right? And so eventually you'll get to that point. But so it's helpful to know that, and it's I've learned to be able to manage that. It's just when there's significant change, how does it change the dynamics of organizations, right? I'm going through a major change with one of the organizations that I work with right now. Somebody that I worked with for a few years in the same position, and we grew very close. She ended up becoming the director of the department that I do consulting for, and she just kind of abruptly retired. And I don't know if it was abruptly for her, but it was for me. So, last month, and it was, I always felt she was one of my biggest supporters. I never had to worry about, things, her being there, right? And then I just found out yesterday or 2 days ago that one of the people that I work with very closely in that organization is leaving too and put in their notice, right? And so, you know, there's a little bit of uncertainty there. Now, the thing is, there's 5 or 6 people that are still there that that I've worked with and I've developed a relationship with and think that we're on good terms, right? And actually one of them is kind of taking over the director role. And so I feel confident that we will still be able to have a good working relationship. But, sometimes that is not something that is, your it's under your control, right? And so just having that just little inkling of what to expect next when something has been the same for a while, that can that can be challenging, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think that most people experience that. It's like we get comfortable in the predictability of what we're doing. And then when it changes, I think not knowing how it's going to change is what really is creates, I think, the discomfort.
Mhm.
If there's like again a little bit of information about what to expect or time frames, I think it sits a little bit easier, but it's like the not knowing is definitely challenging because I don't know how you are as a human being, but when I don't know, I spiral a bit and I start making up all of the what could happen type of scenarios. And I spend a lot of energy on, well, if this then that, like I make these weird flow charts, those like if this then that, and then if this then that, and if this then that. Um, and it's oftentimes, never as bad as I think. It hardly is ever as bad as I think it is. But I've got to go through all of the potentials and waste a lot of energy there. I'm like you though. I want to know why. I want to know why. Well, I want to know what the outcome is. I don't necessarily need to know why like the decision was made. Where I am most like focused is at the end of this, like what's the point? What's the goal?
Right.
If you can't tell me like what outcome you're looking for, or I'm not, if I don't know what the prize is, then it's really hard for me to like find the right pathway to get there. And I can tell you 100%, I do not respond well to change. That's because we said so. If it's like a power move or again, someone pulling rank or flexing their authority, good luck.
Yeah.
I say that with all the love in my heart, but even like in my personal life, like my partner, my spouse and I, we make decisions together. If we're thinking about something, we talk about it, we talk about pros and cons. Um, but if he were ever to be like, this is what we're doing, and I say, okay, well, what's the goal here? Because I said so. Well, I can tell you what we're not doing.
Yeah.
Because I don't make decisions like that. I mean, only one time I made a decision like that, but it was that we were going to go on a big vacation. So he can't complain about that one. But for the most part, I like to be, I don't need to be consulted for all choices in the workplace but I want to be included or at least have an opportunity to share perspective. And what you do with that's up to you, but I'd like to give some feedback about like what could happen or what I'm thinking. But just don't tell me I have to because you said so, because it's probably not going to happen.
Absolutely. Well, I mean that makes total sense. I mean, human beings, Ryan and Deci say, for self-determination theory, we need three things, right? We need the ability to choose how we want to live our life. We have the need to be able to make our decisions, to have agency, right? In the decisions that affect our lives. And we need to have a sense of relatedness with however many people you need. You need a whole squad of people, you just need one or two people, right? But those three things are definitely needed. And that idea of agency, that I get to at least have a say. And I mean, we can't control if we're working for somebody else, we can't control how things happen, right? We know that.
Right,
But, you know, for us to be informed and notified and, or at least have our concerns heard, right? And those things like that allow us to buy in better, right? It's
right,
just we've been talking about, the limbic system shuts down, or no, it doesn't shut down. It goes into hypermotion when we don't know what's going on. I need to go to my boss's office. I don't know why. So this gap is filled in by something terrible must have happened. I'm going to lose my job, or somebody's leaving, or somebody screwed up. What's going on, right? And so, what is this going to look like moving forward? I have no idea. I'm kind of just drifting out there, without a port to know where I'm going, right? So
Mhm.
that really is hard. And studies will show, people who do not have a clear idea of why we're doing the change will immediately resist it. It doesn't matter how much you like change, right? Even if it's a positive change, if we know it's going to be a benefit to you, right? If you're not specifically told how it's going to be a benefit to you, it will be harder to adopt it, right? And so it's a big thing. I mean, there's so many different factors to it, right? I'm one of those people who, when something new is introduced, right? You have, that adopter, graph where you have the
Mhm.
inventors, and then the early adopters, then the mid-range adopters, and the late adopters, and then the never adopters.
Saboteurs, the
Yeah, the
saboteurs.
saboteurs. Right, right. I'm one of those. I probably would fall on the mid to late adopter, right? So if there's I mean, I was one of the last of my friends to get a cell phone,
Hmm.
right? And I lived in the middle of the desert. And my thought was, well, if I got real old on people. Well, if you need to get a hold of me, I have an answering machine at work and I have one at home. Why do I need to spend this money on a cell phone and things like that? And I eventually did get one, and now I can't keep my eyes and my hands off the damn thing, right? But
Right.
it's something that I did. I'm slower to warm to new ideas unless there's data to back it up that says this is, everything that you need and then some, right? And even then, I'll still be like, okay, let me make sure, I mean, I almost quit teaching because we went from in person to Zoom during the pandemic. How am I going to
Yeah.
learn this? How is this going to work? This can't work. This can't be the same thing,
Yeah.
and so here we are.
I think in that scale, I'm gonna be closer to like the innovator early majority. And I think where I'm gonna be on the innovator or early majority depends on what it is. Um, like technology is like I don't need to have the greatest, newest technology. Like I still I use an Android. Don't come for me. I prefer, I really like the Android over an iPhone. I love my Android, and I only replace my Android when I have to. And when I have to mean I break it, I lose it. It's, whatever it is. And by the way, I tend to break them all up. Don't judge me. But so I like to use like AI is something I'm really into right now. Like Chat GPT is like my homie. Like I'm really like playing with it and like figuring out how to utilize it um and maximize like how to use it, but I have no idea. Nobody showed me. I'm just kind of figuring it out as I go along. So I'm really great like in the workplace. I'm huge on like if you need to pilot something or you want like a soft launch and you need people to try it out, I'm like the pick me girl. Let me try it out. And I think part of it for me is uh, I have control issues. Um, one of the reasons I like to be part of pilots is that I get to have a voice on how everybody else is going to do it. And I'm not afraid to get things wrong. Like I like to test things out and figure out what works and what doesn't work and what are the tips, the tricks. And I like to have like that firsthand knowledge so I really like pilots. That's one of the reasons in the very first county I worked at, I really enjoyed it and I felt like invigorated by that work because our director was huge on volunteering us to pilot things.
Mhm.
So like the big statewide program C4, we were the very first county to go live with C4 and it was a shit show inside of a dumpster fire for lack of a better word. So um but I like the thrill of not knowing and getting to figure it out. Like I get a lot of um, invigoration from that, but there's some frustration of not knowing. But the certainty is not as important to me as it is to you. Autonomy is my scarf, the one that
Mhm.
I'm closest connected to. So I like not knowing and being able to figure it out and have like freedom to discover, that's exciting for me. Um, and then I write really good like job aids for people like you who are like, what works, what doesn't work. And I'm like,
Yeah.
here's a list. Try it out and come to me if you need me. I'll walk you through it. Like I really like having that type of like influence. That's something I'm really excited about. So that's why I think for change is not something that I really struggle with because I'm always like I think too the way I think about change is that changes are are almost always intended to make things better. And that's usually like the mindset I'm coming from. Like we go through going through this change. Like I think maybe I'm a little generous here, but I would say that most like organizations, companies, managers are not like looking down from their thrones saying, "Oh, my employees are really thriving right now." You know, they're really nailing it. Like let's shake things up and, you know, see them squirm. Like I don't want to believe that that's true most of the time. And I say most of the time because, you know, they're those CEOs and people who do like to make people miserable, but I'm hoping that's the exception, not the rule. But with that being said, with with thinking like enthusiastically about the change, like it's intended to make something better. If I can think about what that better thing is, then as I'm kind of piloting and figuring things out, I'm keeping that end result in mind and making sure like the actions, the choices are in line with whatever that outcome is supposed to be instead of making it more difficult. So process I think is important, but I'm a fan of simplicity. Let's not overcomplicate things. Let's figure out how to make it work. And that's always my perspective when it comes to change.
This concludes part one of our episode. Stay tuned for part two, coming Tuesday to all major podcast platforms.